Good evening, everyone, and welcome. It is time to call this regular meeting of the San Felipe de Oro CISD Board of Trustees. We also have a public hearing tonight, today being Monday, March 25th, 2024. Madam Secretary, would you call roll?
Yes, sir. Ms. Becky Chavez?
Present.
Mr. Overfeld?
He will be late today.
Okay. Ms. Gonzalez?
Here.
Mr. Mesa?
Here.
Mr. Galindo?
Present.
Ms. Haynes?
Here.
And myself. We have a quorum, sir.
Thank you very much. Let the record show that we do have a quorum of board members and that this meeting has been duly called in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551. We will have opening ceremonies, again, first with a moment of silence for personal reflection. And we also want to take some time, again, a moment of silence for the tragic accident that occurred at Hayes ISD this past weekend, where we had one student and one teacher, lose their lives on a trip that they had made on a school bus. So at this time, if we can please stand. Thank you very much. We'll follow with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We will follow our agenda tonight. We'll keep things in order. First item we have is item 4, recognitions. Armando Villanueva, Visual Arts Scholastic Event, which is called VACE, State Finalist, Ricardo Rios.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. This evening, it is with great honor and pleasure that we are going to be recognizing this young man for incredible talent in what he displayed in this artwork. I'm going to go ahead and have Mrs. Calvetti, who is his sponsor, art teacher, to come up and explain a little bit about the vase and about this great accomplishment that Armando has. Ms. Calvetti.
Good evening, School Board President, Mr. Mesa, Superintendent Dr. Rios, and fellow school board members. My name is Catherine Calvetti, and I am one of the sponsors for the Visual Arts Scholastic Event art competition for 9th to 12th grade for Del Rio freshmen in Del Rio High School. This is my student, Armando Villanueva. Many of my past team members have gone to have successful careers in freelance design, clothing design, ink designs, and jewelry, and so on. And this program helps students to see other possibilities for careers with the fine arts. In order to qualify for state, a student must receive a 4. And once they're in a 4 category, they take all the 4s, and then they take 10% of those and pick 10% to move on to state. This year we had 300 entries were judged for Region 15. Out of those entries, Mondo was one of 21. And one of 8 in Division 1, and it goes by divisions. So 0 to a half a credit, first year in VACE is Division 1, which is the division Mondo was in, up to Division 2, 3, and 4. 4 is typically your juniors and your seniors. I would like to thank the board for the recognition of our state qualifier, Armando Villanueva, who's received a 4 and a perfect score of 60 points. In the 4 range, you can go anywhere from 50 to 60. So he got the maximum amount of points for his score. Armando put in 70 plus hours on his art while maintaining a straight A average and also playing basketball. So he accomplished all of this. Yeah, I'm really proud of him. Armando and I will be traveling on April 26th and 27th to San Marcos, Texas, at the high school there for the state competition where he'll compete. He also is able to possibly get another medal if he scores a 4 at state. The last stage is the gold medal, or the gold seal, which is very competitive. We're talking about the whole state of Texas. And then if he makes it to the gold seal level, he's on display for 1 whole year in the gallery in Dallas, Texas. I would like to thank you for your support of the VACE program and to the knowledge it brings to our students.
Thank you, Mrs. Calvetti, and as you can see in the screens, and that is a replica that he has there. That's not the actual one, but it's just a replica that he brought so he could showcase that. But again, what you see there on the screen, when I first saw that, I was like, okay, that must be him and his brothers or something like that. But it's, with, pencil, that is just incredible. So let's hear another big round of applause for Armando Villanueva. And we wish him the best at the state competition. And again, we want to thank the school board and administration in general for all the support that we receive in the fine arts. Thank you.
Thank you. I have to say that is the most absolutely amazing artwork that I've seen. Thank you, Mrs. Calvetti. Thank you, Armando. Thank you, parents, again, for supporting his efforts, and I wish him well. Hope everything goes well at the state meet. Next item we have is citizens to be heard. Let the record show that we do have Mr. Overfeld joining us. Do we have any citizens to be heard? We don't? Okay, then we will open the public hearing. Again, this is for the TAPER report for the 2022-2023 Texas Academic Performance Report called TAPER. Dr. Sandy Garza.
Okay, good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. Tonight, we bring to you the district annual report. Texas Education Code 39.306 requires that the Board of Trustees publish for the public the district annual report that includes TAPER and other components that we'll go over tonight. For the community and others following along, you can access this annual report many ways. We have a bit.ly there that you can type in at the bottom that is case sensitive. You can use your camera to get the QR code, get the link through the QR code, and then our media department has been gracious enough to put it on our website. So if you just go directly to the SFDR website, you will get a pop-up that will take you directly to this presentation. If we were to print them all out, it would be over, I don't know, some of y'all look very muscular today, and I think it was a lot of pages. 500 pages or so? Yeah. So we're gonna try it this way. The objective of the presentation is not to go through every 500 pages, but to provide an explanation for the public about what kind of information is available in each of these components and reports. The 8 sections that I referenced are the TAPER report, 22-23 TAPER report. In our collection of files, we do have the district TAPER report as well as a TAPER report for each of our campuses. We also have PEAMS, the financial standard report, for the district and for each campus in the district. We are also required to inform the community about our district accreditation status.
our campus performance objectives that that were set, whether or not we've been achieving those. A report on violent and criminal incidents on campuses, student performance in post-secondary institutions, progress toward board-adopted House Bill 3 goals for the district and for each campus, and then a glossary to help everybody understand a little further what these reports are about. Section 1, this is what the Texas Academic Performance Report includes. It is compiled by the agency for every district and campus across the state using PEIMS data and assessment data. It is published as a PDF, and in most recent years, it's also been published digitally. It includes a wide range of information, student groups, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, different programs across each district and campus. There's a cover page, and on that cover page, we typically look for information about our accountability rating. Of course, that is on hold, so you'll see the red font at the bottom that tells us that is not included in this year's district nor campus taper reports. We have the status of special education determination. That one is only on district. Any distinction designations that the district or the campus has earned will be on that cover page as well. Those two, of course, are on hold. There is information about the ASVAB test, and that one's only on the district, and only reported if the district didn't offer the ASVAB test or offered an alternative. The first part of the taper report will include information about STAR performance. And what they do is they break it down from 2022 to 2023. It looks a little bit like this. And so they break it down, there's the cover page. They break it down by grade level, and they'll compare 2022 to 2023. An interesting part of taper is that they will list our performance under the fourth column district, and then it compares to Region 15, all the schools and districts in Region 15, and then how we compare with the state. So you'll be looking for school year, the state average, the regional average, and then the district average. As you go across, the taper report also wants to inform the community how the districts and campuses are doing with our special pops, Hispanic, white, some of them that have an asterisk. It's because we have a too small of a population to report that. And 2 or more races, special ed, continuously enrolled, non-continuously enrolled, economically disadvantaged, and emergent bilingual, or English learners. So that is kind of how it's laid out. You will see as you move through the taper report that just like accountability, they will report in all 3 performance levels, approaches, grade level and higher, meets, grade level and higher, and master's grade level and higher. And as I showed, there's different categories. There are categories of each assessment. There are categories of all grades, all subjects, and all grades by subject. There is also a section you'll want to look for when it says meets grade level or above. That's a label that is very familiar to us, as really that's measuring kids on grade level, and the federal accountability uses that a lot. So when you see meets grade level, that's what that means. They will use that for really looking at our reading and math areas. There is going to be a section on school progress, academic growth. This is domain 2 of our accountability system for the state. And it's only reported this year because of the change in the methodology. There is a subsection for annual growth, that shows how well we are growing our students. Of course, we want to see that trend line up. We have a section for accelerated learning, or those students that participated in interventions because of House Bill 4545. How well did they do with those interventions? And then the last subcategory is academic growth, domain 2A, which is a combination of both of those two subcategories. There will be another section in the taper that is dedicated to bilingual and English as a second language. There's data available in the same format that I went over a while ago with our performance compared to state and region, and then it'll have other subpopulations across. Disaggregated data is available for total bilingual education students, as well as the various models listed below. We will also get some data about that subpopulation's STAR performance. Again, it's just reported, and then their annual growth, and then their accelerated learning, or how well they did as a result of 4545 interventions. There's another section called STAR participation, because the state and the feds want to know how many students participated in assessment to make sure that districts are not pulling kids away from assessments, but getting as many students to participate as possible. So we will see data reported about the assessment participation rate, and these numbers are typically included in accountability. Not included, though, are mobile or other things that have to do with snapshot data. Students that are not included also are those that did not take the test. They were absent, or other reasons like that. They're reported for all tests by subject area and accelerated testers. And then you'll have a section about attendance, graduation, and dropout rates. This data lags a little bit because we're looking at the last few years. We do have things such as the attendance rate, or the ADA. We have data about chronic absenteeism. Dropout rate and graduation rate is reported here, and typically part of the methodology for accountability. And then at the very bottom, the graduation profile, listing the descriptive data of the last graduation cohort used in this taper report. So in this case, it's 21-22 graduates. It'll give us information about the total graduates in that cohort, and then give us some data by ethnicity, by graduation type, and by special population. For CCMR, there's also a section on CCMR. Included in the taper report is information about how well we did preparing students, not only for college, but for career and military. So there are some college readiness sections, and then there's a career and military readiness section. They take things into account like TSI results, dual credit, SAT, ACT for college readiness. And for career readiness, they're looking at things like industry-based certifications, students that have shown interest in the military has been something that the state has looked at for years. Those kinds of things. They want to make sure that we are making the education that our students receive something relevant and on a pathway for their success. And then we have the last part of taper includes our district profile. What is our student population? What is it made of? The number of students per grade level, the number of teachers, their sub-pops as well, you know, how many teachers of every ethnicity is included. There's information about years of experience, highest education attained, whether we have teachers certified or not. So that's the last profile piece of the taper, as well as teachers by program and students.
Dr. Garza,
Yes.
I'm sorry, earlier when you asked me about where to put the section on the performance, can you skip to that and then we come back to the finances? Because that relates to what you just presented, so I apologize for the misdirection I gave you.
It's okay. So there were some, as we looked at the data, because, as I mentioned, we have a column for our district performance as well as our region, as our performance compared to the region and to the state. And so these are some areas that we found to actually outperform both the state and the region. And so we did want to pull those out because there's a lot to be said after COVID, and it really speaks volumes to the hard work of our teachers and students. Grade 4 in the approaches category in ELAR, the state score had 77% of students performing at the approaches level. The region, 76%, and we surpassed both at 78%. Was there a question? No? We good? For grade 5, state 81, that's his ELAR at the approaches level, 81, region 79, and we were up at 81 as well. For grade 5 in the approaches level for math, 80 at the state level, 77 in the whole region, 15, and 82 here in our district. For EOC, in the approaches level for English 2, the state had 74% of kids scoring approaches or higher. Region 15 had 75%, and our district had 78. For Algebra 1, in the approaches category, the state had 79, Region 15 73, and our district had 82. U.S. History, this is a more rigorous performance level with end of course master's level, which is above grade level. At the statewide, the state was able to report 38% of all students taking U.S. history were above grade level. Region 15, 31%. San Felipe Del Rio, 39%. When it comes to school progress or growing students, we have grade 4 in ELAR, 55 at the state, 51, region 15, and the district 56. In math, for grade 4, 63 at the state, 56 region 15, and 66 the district. Grade 6 math, 54 at the state, 55 region, and 60 at the district. EOC, again, English 1 and English 2. English 1, 57 at the state, 59 region 15, and then 59 in the district. English 2, 74% at the state, 77 region, 81 district. When it comes to that same domain 2, but accelerated learning, these students are the students that were successful after having had the House Bill 4545 interventions. At the state, 33% of fourth graders in ELAR were successful after the interventions. Region 15, 34%. San Felipe Del Rio, 39%. Grade 4 math, 27 at the state, 23 region 15, 31 the district. Grade 5 ELAR, 37 at the state, 34 at the region, and 42 at the district. Grade 5 math, 48 state, 45 region, and 55 here in the district. And then end of course for English 2, 41% at the state, 48% region 15, and San Felipe Del Rio 49%. And then we have some highlights in CCMR, College Career Military Readiness. In terms of the way that they measure college-ready graduates, one of the indicators is number of associate degrees, or percentage of graduates that attained an associate degree. At the state, 2.4%, at Region 15, 2.3%, and at the district, 9.4%. Dual credit, any subject, at the state, 24%, region, 42.1%, and the district, 42.5%. College or military ready, 33.5 at the state, region 15, 32.4, and the district, 44.8. For career-ready graduates, we have a measure of industry-based certification attainment. At the state, 28% of students received IBCs. At the region, 24.9, and at the district, 35.8. And then the second indicator is the attainment of level 1 or level 2 certification. At the state, less than 1%. At the district, 3.3%. And in the region, 3.3, and in the district, 11.2%. That covers the TAPER report. The other sections of our report are also available in the links that we provided for you. Again, by statute, it's required that the board provide the community our district financial report as well as the different campus financial reports. 21-22 is the most recent year, but when you go to the links, you'll see a landing page like that. If you click on PEAMS financial reports, it will look like this. So you'll be able to see revenues and expenditures broken down. There's comparisons between the district and the state. And again, this is available for the district and for the campus, all the campuses. Section 3 requires that we report on our accreditation status. There are 4 different statuses that we are given, either accredited, accredited warned, accredited probation, or not accredited because we've been revoked. In assigning accreditation, TEA looks at academic accountability, financial accountability, and data integrity. They also look at program area deficiencies as measured by RDA, or results-driven accountability. The district's 22-23 accreditation status is accredited. Section 4 of the district report requires that we report on the campus improvement plan objectives. Those are also available. Let me see. I don't know if I'm missing a slide. There they are. It was mixed up. It looks like this, and you'll see by grade level the different targets or goals that were set last year at the meets grade level, or what percentage of students does each campus and the district expect to meet in terms of students on grade level, at the meets grade level or higher. So you can see there the district goal, the goal per campus, and whether they were met or not by comparing it to the percent met. So you have the goal set and then the percent met. We also have a section on the annual report of violent or criminal incidents. It is required that we publish this report and provide the number of incidences that occurred as per PEAMS coding. So Those incidents, when they happen, they are coded a certain way that is then transmitted to the state for this report. It is really small font, but I can tell you, I can probably go close right here. I can tell you that I personally saw one under felony controlled substance violation for this report that was pulled. Okay. And then section 6 requires that we report on student performance in post-secondary institutions. And this is part of a partnership with the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, which typically will track students. And this is part, we are required, to let the public know that this is something that they keep a pulse on. The Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board website will publish that report. It's not published yet, but when it is, you can expect to go there to look for San Felipe del Rio and to see the number of students that are going into four-year institutions, two-year institutions. They even break it down by grade point average that they are attaining. But that report hasn't been published yet. We were expecting it in January, but it hasn't been published yet. And then section 7, progress of the district and each campus toward meeting board adopted House Bill 3 goals. And I believe this is what was submitted for House Bill 3 as well. I will say that for the previous one on campus improvement reports, we are also required to publish those on our website. And so those are all available if you go to the federal programs website. All campus improvement plans are available for the public to see. Section 7 is the information on college, career, or military ready, and this was part of the board goals that were set for House Bill 3. And the board goal was that CCMR would increase to 98% by August 2025. The district has been keeping track of this when available because there was a pause for COVID. But you can see here that 2022 was the most recent year with the percent of graduates reaching the 91%. And then the last section of our annual report is the TAPER glossary. This allows the public to take a look at the different terminology. You may be looking at one of the reports and say, well, what does that mean? How do they measure that? You can go to the TAPER glossary, and TEA is the one who has put that out for us. So we just include that with our annual report. Are there any questions?
I'll turn it over to board members. Ms. Wood.
Ms. Sandy, since you have looked at all of the reports, you alluded to the fact that most of the information, if I understood correctly, was at approaches, correct?
Most
was
of the
presented?
highlights?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so these students are barely approaching their grade level. So do you have any indication how many of these students actually are at meets and are at grade level?
Yeah, all of that information is on the TAPER as well. So when you go to the TAPER, if I'm looking at third grade reading, for example, you might see that we performed at 73, the region at 75, and the state at 76. You can make comparisons to how we did in last year at approaches, but then if you go further down It tells you the same information for meets and for masters.
Correct. Now, we have to look at what are we doing for those students that haven't gone to meets yet and are still at approaches?
Yes.
Because we have a lot of those students based on the reports that are still 39%, 30%. So I'm sure that there is a plan of action. Can you share that information with us?
Sure. Just in a nutshell, the campuses have been really hard at work, not only the principals, but the teachers and even the students. There has been an increased awareness. We've done some training all the way down so that people understand these performance levels a little bit better. There's also some systems that we've put into place so that not only do we understand the end goal, but we can keep track of how we are doing, whether we're keeping track of our campus, how we're doing, our planning team, our grade level, our classroom, and all the way down at the student level. So that's one of the first things that we really collaborated on with all the stakeholders across the district, and it's on a good start. That awareness is really starting to make differences in kids' lives. You start seeing kids say, look at my folder, like I'm doing better, like now I've gone up a grade level, I've gone up a reading level. And so kids are starting to be very excited about their learning and saying things like, I'm better than this, I know I can be at masters, I can be at meets. So lots of goal setting going on and lots of celebrations.
So then my last question is, based on everything that you have seen, what is the area that our district needs to concentrate most in? Reading, of course, goes into everything. Reading goes into science, reading goes into math, it goes everywhere. Which is the area that you see that concentration needs to be held at elementary, and then at the middle school, and then at the high school?
I think the trends that we see here in Del Rio mirror the trends that we see statewide. For whatever reason, when we came out of the pandemic, a lot of us thought we were going to see a lot of dips in reading, but we really saw them in math, and we haven't been able to recover yet. The trend line to come back up in ELAR has gone faster, but the one for math hasn't gone as fast, district-wide and statewide.
Okay. And then the rest is just a comment. If we're concentrating in the math, what can we do as a district to help our parents understand the math area better so that they can assist the teachers and the district in bringing their students forward?
Yeah. So we have done a lot of partnering with Ms. Adams and her team with the parent conference. CNI was very much involved with that, as were the campus leaders, because we're very focused on our target now, and we shared strategies that they could do at home, and that conversation continues going. It wasn't just that one night, but that was one of the highlights for the fall. That is a direct result of the data.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anyone else? So, Dr. Garza, I always ask for a hard copy, and I go through it like, yes, it's real heavy, but there's some things I'm going to zoom in on the positive first and then look into some of the areas of concern. We have a lot of end-of-course exams that are very positive. End of algebra course, Algebra 1, biology end of course, U.S. history, SAT, ACT. Our graduation numbers have gone up. Dropout remains still the same, 2.05, I believe. But the areas of concern, 7th and 8th grade. Reading, math, very low. Industry-based certifications are awesome. Lots of certifications being received, which is great for our students. They start earning money towards their career. But then I look into the bilingual, and Karen Schaefer knows I always look at the bilingual with a magnifying glass. And I couldn't find the areas you highlighted. I see the accelerated, but if you go through section F, I can give you the exact page, 3 of 32. You know, and you look at, let's say, math, for example. And I always look at reading because, again, reading involves all subject areas. But it's not anywhere near the district. And I'm talking about ESL, bilingual. They're low. I think the only one that I saw that was somewhere near was probably third grade, but fourth grade, fifth grade, the others, even math. But I'm always concerned with the bilingual because there's a lot of catching up to do. And again, I do this every year when we get the taper report. I mean, I look at it carefully. And when COVID hit, I mean, there was a lot of loss of learning. But I'm hoping now that with the academies, and that's one thing that for years in the past, I always brought up the fact that emergency certified teachers can do great in secondary, but not in elementary. And that was because of the, again, phonics and how to teach reading and how to decode words and so forth. But now we have the academies, and I think it's a wonderful thing. There's training in dyslexia, which will catch some of the issues that some students that might have fall in that category and are getting the instruction for that or the help for that. But again, my concern is when I look at page 3 out of 32, section, those numbers are still low. And again, I'm just looking at approaches. I'm not looking at masters or meets. But our bilingual students are still way behind. And again, I'm so grateful for the academies that are going on everywhere. The teachers are going through the modules. They're learning how to teach reading because, again, especially in the primary grades. But there's still a lot of work to be done. As I mentioned, the graduation numbers have gone up, but we still have the same number of dropouts. So when I look at attendance, which is one area that we'll look at today, I mean, I know that there's a lot of work that can be done. I'm glad that most of the campuses in elementary is doing great. When I look at secondaries, even though this time it's getting real close to 90%, and 90% I'm comfortable with, but blended academy, for example, is in the 70s, 79, I think. There's work to be done there, but again, to focus on the bilingual issue, Dr. Rios, and I know science is another area that something needs to get done, either to bring in labs for students to do lab work and to learn, again, how to form a hypothesis, in a situation where they handle equipment, science equipment, whether it's a prism or a beaker or whatever needs to be bought for resources to teach science. Science is an exciting area for students. It was for me, I'm a science major, but I think science has a lot of exciting things with the solar system and so forth because they study so many different areas. It's an exciting subject matter, but it's still a low area for our district. But my focus will be on the bilingual issues because, again, there's a lot of work that needs to get done to bring the students to the rate where all the other students are at. And again, a lot of these students have been in our district for a number of years. And so I know that there's a fresh start now with, we do have, or focusing on that with a director. whereas before we didn't have one, but we don't want to leave these students behind. We want to make sure that, again, as we look at every, I guess, ethnicity and every category, whether it's GT, that we focus the same on bilingual.
Yes, sir.
And with that, I'll turn it over to anybody else that might have a question. No questions. So, thank you very much. And this time I'll ask for citizens. Is there anyone, this is a public hearing, anyone, citizens, to speak? We don't have any, so we'll close the public hearing and we'll continue with our meeting. Okay, now we're down to reports, which is item 8. On item 7, I just want to mention a couple of things as I don't want to give a board member's report, but I do want to say that resolutions are going to be taken. Again, resolutions, I think those of you that went to the grassroots, we select some priorities there, and then grassroots will tell you that we have until the sometime in June to submit any resolutions. If you think of anything else that needs to be highlighted during the next legislative session. So again, I just want to remind board members that we still have some time. So we'll go on to reports. Item 8A, facilities and construction update. Hector Chapa.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. Tonight's presentation will provide the status of the electrical buses infrastructure project. Currently, the 7 distribution hubs for the rapid charging stations have been installed, as well as the step-down transformer. That is in anticipation of receiving the Project AEP transformer, as well as the switchgear. So the first major installation has taken place. From those distributions will be sending 480 power voltage power to the rapid chargers, and the step-down transformer will send power to the normal charging stations that are required 208 voltage. Also, to date, we have received 12 electrical buses that are housed currently at the old Carterwell yard.
Questions?
Any questions?
Board members? Mr. Chapa, I have one. If it ever rains in Dorio, will it ever affect the charging stations? I don't see a cover.
No, sir. They're all weather.
Oh,
proof.
weather.
So the rain, if it ever happens again, will not affect it.
So it won't affect
Correct.
the plug-ins or anything?
Correct.
And the other question is, so the charging will take place during the day or overnight?
The 7 rapid chargers can do it in 2 hours,
2 hours.
and the other 12 are going to be for overnight charging.
Okay. Okay. I've seen the buses there at the old Cardinal, so I don't think there's any chance of getting a hailstorm or anything like that. I know we have the space there available, so. Okay, anyone else? Okay, we'll go on to the next one.
Okay, the work report. The maintenance department, their work order numbers for 0 to 15 days, they submitted was 882, closed 859, and the completed rate is 97.4. For 16 to 30 days, 82 were received, 61 were closed, and the completed rate is 74.4. 31 to 60 days, 63 were received, 36 were closed, completed rate of 57.1, and 61 to 90 days, 36 were received, 21 were closed for a completed rate of 58.3. For technology, 0 to 15 days, 2,035 were received, 2,008 were closed for a completion rate of 98.7. 16 to 30 days, 142 were received, 123 were closed, completed rate of 86.6. 31 to 60 days, 109 were submitted, 93 were closed for a completed rate of 85.3. 61 to 90 days, 15 were received, 10 were closed for a completed rate of 66.7. And transportation, 0 to 15 days, 185 were received, 182 were closed, completed rate of 98.4. 16 to 30 days, 17 were received, 14 were completed for a completion rate of 82.4. 31 to 60 days, 15 were submitted, 13 were completed, closure rate of 86.7. And 61 to 90 days, 1 was submitted, and that one was completed for a completed rate of 100%.
Does anyone have any questions? We're good? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next report is, again, attendance and discipline report. Does anyone have any questions on that? Again, Laura, I think the only thing I mentioned was, again, blended academy, if I remember, was 79 or something. Okay. All right, thank you. Then the next report we have is item C8C RDA, Special Population Report and Corrective Action Plan. Karen Schaefer and Monica Luna.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, school board members. It's good to see y'all. It's been a while. Today I'm going to share with you the RDA presentation for the bilingual ESL program. And this spurs off from the report that we received, and also I met with them, with the team here at the district just this past Monday. So it was really a very informative visit with Ms. Quiltris and her team. The first domain and indicator that we chose as part of our intervention program for the bilingual is domain 1 in the academic achievement. It's indicator 6, which is EB's years after reclassification for the STAR 3rd through 8 passing rate. What it says is that students reported in PEAMS has met the criteria for emergent bilingual student reclassification. So these students have already been reclassified. However, there's a monitoring system for those students who are no longer classified as EBs and PEAMS. They're in their first, second, third, or fourth year of monitoring with the M1 and M4 indicator code, and they are reported on the STAR and STAR Alt 2 assessment. So that's how they get onto this particular monitoring piece. So as our problem statement for the monitoring students after reclassification, EB students monitored as M1s through M4s after reclassification and have not passed the 8th grade social studies STAR test for 3 consecutive years are who we're focusing on the rest of this year, since STAR reading social studies, has not occurred yet. So we've already indicated who those students are, and we only have, last year was 14, and this year we have 22. So because of that indicator, they're monitored students, we do have a plan of action. Excuse me. We're going to make sure that they're identified, which we've already done, 22 in 8th grade currently. We do have M3s and M4s. We incorporate a data-driven culture to monitor students' progress with data talks. So we're using data with what they're doing in their classrooms in that specific class. We'll have conversations with the teachers, the students themselves, and also the parents, which is very important to have that support. We'll also have the ELPS and TEKS curriculum alignment in 8th grade social studies courses. So that means focus on incorporating language domains into social studies lessons during the planning protocol. We'll also focus on implementing continuous instruction and linguistic strategies to support STAR item types. So that language that they use for TELPAS, well, they have to use that also in their STAR, just to process those different question types. And then, of course, the monitoring piece, which is very important, we've seen in and out of the bilingual program. We're going to make sure that the bilingual and strategists and the principal monitor failure reports and implementation of linguistic accommodations, and also bilingual strategists and bilingual aides to provide targeted intervention and support to identified students. So we're monitoring, well, after we identify, we're making sure that there's an alignment for the ELPS and the TEKS in the curriculum for social studies, and then we're providing a monitoring piece. In Domain 1, also in the academic achievement, the second indicator is Indicator 8. It is a repeat of last year for their reading beginning students who did not perform over the 2 years, who performed at the beginning proficiency level on the TELPAS reading assessment in this current year, which is 2023. So our goal is, or a problem that we're trying to solve, is EB students have not shown linguistic progress from the TELPAS reading beginning proficiency level over the past 3 years. And you can see that the growth has not been what we would want at all. So the highlighted shows 2023. They took a snapshot of testers, 1,141 students, and it's only 2nd through 12th grade, and 165 were focused on in this report. Now, if you do simple math, what they did, because, oh, not for this one, sorry, it's for the next. So we took that number, and these are the different grades, that I'll show you, and numbers of the information. The number tested, the reading beginning student numbers, and the denials that go along with it. Now, these numbers are more, of course, than 1,141. So we took the last of the year data and put that into, because numbers change consistently throughout the years, or through the year, with them coming in and rostering and then leaving the district again. So we just put in that information, even though we still have to focus on improving. So that's our main goal. So we have elementary, all the schools. Last year they were in academies, but this year they put them into their appropriate classes or schools. Then we have the information for secondary by grades. So we can see that reading beginning, that TELPAS indicator is pretty high on all of the grades. So our action plan to correct the problem for indicator 8, which is TELPAS reading beginning proficiency level rate, is identify the students, which we keep a constant number and name and class and campus for those students. So we do identify them immediately. We know student proficiency levels, where they are at the previous year along with this year, so to see their growth. And then we also incorporate a data-driven culture, so that we're talking to teachers, parents, students themselves about their data and how they're improving, whether it's a monitoring piece or they're working with Summit K-12 or Lexia. Then the ELPS TELPAS protocol is also implemented for scaffolding instruction to support language acquisition during the planning protocol, to incorporate a linguistic protocol to support all linguistic domains across all grade levels and subject areas, again during planning protocol, begin familiarity with TELPAS, which is most important because not all teachers know about the TELPAS and how it's scored or what they need to do, what kinds of strategies, and conduct TELPAS benchmarks to inform instruction of students' interventions. So again, we need to have some monitoring pieces in between with benchmarks. And then of course, like I said, monitoring is that third piece where we also monitor the interventions that we devise with the planning protocol. A domain that we're going to also look at is post-secondary readiness, indicator 11, which are EB annual dropout rates in grades 7 through 12. This states that EB students in grades 7 through 12 who have dropped out in a given school year. So these are a concern. Now, the cap is not required for this, but we do have numbers. So we have specifically 29 students, but where are they? Because it is 7 through 12. So the team and I, got that information together so that we do have, of last year, this is last year's information, 2 in 7th, 7 and 8th grade, 2 in 9th, 3 in 10th, 8th and 11th, and 9th and 12th. So we do know that in high school they have the heavier numbers, so that is something for us to address. So we have to, again, identify the students, which we've already done for last year, and now we're going to do some intervention pieces in between every single part of the year. So after we identify, research, and determine reasons for increase in the numbers of student dropouts, so it may vary campus to campus, grade to grade, student to student, and collaborate with the bilingual ESL department, ourselves, PEEMS, and each of the campus administrators. And then establish a protocol, which has not been done before, so our new team of bilingual and ESL and special ed will also collaborate for along with those students who are double-coded. Any questions?
Board members, Mrs. Webb.
On the second page, I think you mentioned 8th grade social studies courses and ELPS and TEACS curriculum. Am I correct in stating that 8th grade social studies tests U.S. history?
Yes,
Okay. Then is it also taught in 5th grade?
it's taught, but it's not tested.
Right.
Mhm.
So should we say that 5th graders should know some of the things that are being tested at 8th grade by the time they get to 8th grade?
That's correct.
If the
Yes.
curriculum is taught the way it's supposed to be?
Exactly.
Okay.
So in our department, we want to make sure that the speaking, listening, reading, and writing are also incorporated into the regular curriculum so they can understand it and speak it, read it, and write it.
So then as we are looking at social studies,
Mhm.
then am I correct in stating that 4th grade and 7th grade both work with Texas history?
Correct.
So your ELPS and everything else should, the vocabulary
Align.
should be the same for 4th and then improved or increased in 7th grade as the curriculum increases.
Yes, the ELPS should
Okay.
help them. Mhm.
Just making sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
You know, I think at the last time you presented, I asked for denials, and I see some here that kind of trouble me a little bit.
Yes, sir.
And I see them in 6th grade, and then I see them at freshman. Have we done enough to explain to the parents it's so difficult to have a Spanish speaker with an all-English speaking teacher, which, you know, it makes it impossible for them to understand unless you pair them up with another student and translate all day long. But
Mhm.
they need to understand that the best way to learn the English language is, you know, in a bilingual class, you know, not overwhelming where, you know, you have a teacher
course.
that is non-Spanish speaking and you have a student that is struggling and the student is the one that is acting as the teacher to interpret and provide the information. So we need to make sure, and for some reason, I mean, the others are fine, 3, and
Mhm.
but when you go to 6th grade, 10, freshman, 10 denials, it just makes it impossible for that teacher. And then we lose a lot of teachers because, again, either students are misplaced or sometimes, it used to be a problem with PEEMS, but now they're properly identified at registration. And so when they end up on the campus, they need to be channeled into the course in the proper sections where a bilingual teacher is certified to provide that instruction. Is there anything else we can do with the parents, like during the parental conference, to zoom in on fifth grade parents before they get to sixth grade to explain that situation?
Well, so I think we're starting to do that more, starting like from the Christmas events. So I know we're slow in the process, but when we were trying to promote Summit K-12, and we put it on the social. I know social media seems to be the biggest sort, but that's just one way for those extracurricular things, our side note items. However, what we have been doing is trying to have more parent meetings with our district liaison and just reach out more. So during testing, we've reached over 3 or 4 parents to, are you sure you don't want this extra training or tutorials? And they did change their mind to put them back in. But the numbers are very low, so we do need to improve on that parent connection like you're asking.
Because they need to understand that, and, we're trying to retain teachers, and when you have a student that, doesn't belong in that class, it just makes it
Correct.
frustrating for both the teacher and the student as well.
Agreed.
So, but again, there's a lot of work to be done, and I hope that teachers are receiving information as to resources that are available to help them out in the different grade levels, different departments, because there is a lot of material, and I hope that when you attend a conference that you'll bring back some of the catalogs and materials to share with the department heads.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. This evening, I'll be presenting on the Special Education RDA report. This year, I am pleased to announce that we weren't required to provide a corrective action plan, but we did receive a determination level of 1, which is the best rating that you can receive, and we'd like to continue to receive that. So we did continue, we did develop our own plan. It doesn't have to be submitted, but we are looking at social studies and science. We're gonna focus on 8th grade social studies. If you see this year, in 2023, we received a 4, which is not a good rating, but we tested 117 students, 23 passed for a percentage of 19.7. So even though we've made gains from 15 in 2021 to 20 in 2022, it's an area that we're gonna focus on and continue to work together. We did put in an action plan in place where we've identified the population. We're also gonna research and determine reasons for failing rates. We're collaborating with the campus, the special ed department. We're also running failure reports, working with the PEAMS department, and then we're looking at planning protocol. A lot of times they do plan for the language arts, and of course, we can always bring in the social studies and science to help make some gains. We've established protocol for tracking the failure rates 3 through 8th, but like we mentioned earlier, the social studies is implemented. It's not tested, but we're looking at tracking the curriculum and ensuring that those TEKs can be brought into other core areas. And then we're reviewing DMAC reports. We're doing data walls. The campus have created these wonderful walls where it's easy to identify if a child is double-coded or how they'll impact their scores. And we're also reviewing accommodations. The campus elementary diagnosticians working with their campus administrators are looking at their IEPs and looking to see if we need to go back and schedule another ARD and review their IEPs and current accommodations. If they have lengthy accommodations, are they not working? Do we need to go back and look to see per child? And we've created sheets for that. We looked at the problem area. We did look at the science and social studies for the past 3 years, and we looked at the passing rate. So we're gonna look at the science and social studies. We did receive a 3 and a 4. We're making some gains, but we're still at a determination level that we need to continually monitor.
The correction plan for the passing rate, we are looking at identifying the population, incorporate data-driven culture monitoring, just where we have the academic vocabulary, the data talks with the teachers, including the students to monitor and track their progress, but also incorporate the parents. What scores are we looking at? What can the parents do at home? How can we provide any training that we can, bring on as development, staff development for the teachers working with the parents so that they can understand the rigor of the test. The differentiation that will be included in their planning, that way we ensure that they're using that differentiation to meet our special population's needs. We're going to look at focusing on the science and social studies, and then implementing continuous instructional and professional development to support science and social studies. I know our past corrective action plan, we met with 7th and 8th grade social studies teachers. We did attend the plannings. At the freshman level, Mrs. Villarreal was kind enough to let us attend their actual planning time. The teachers completed training online through TEA. It created a report, and they turned in their certificate once all the training was completed. So that was very helpful in helping teachers understand the accommodations and modifications to implement for the science and biology area. For the monitoring piece, we've also developed a tracker, and that we've met with the campuses and administrators and the diagnostician so that they can monitor and adjust accommodations as needed. The campus diagnostician, the campus administrator, they'll collaborate to support the need of the student. We've also decided to look at indicator 18, and this is for the special ed disciplinary removals. We did look at the rate. We did score a 2 in that area, but we do anticipate, because of the new laws, the vaping laws, that our discipline rates will be higher. So we want to ensure that we constantly monitor that. We do get a report out from the PEMS department. Mrs. Sandate has helped develop where the campus administrator will receive that report and can monitor how many out-of-school, in-school suspensions each student has. I did put together a chart just by grade level of the removals from last academic year, just so that we can see. I know we see a first grader on there. That was an in-school suspension, and usually if they have an infraction and they were removed, it will, because it does monitor ages 3 to 21. It shows 6 students that graduated also. Those students graduated either at semester this December. So they do reflect that they're graduated, but they did have a removal this past academic year. And this just shows the information in a different chart. And then what we're doing, we're identifying the student population. We do research and determine the reasons for the number of students being disciplined and removed. We are collaborating with the special ed department, the PEMS department, and the campus to actively monitor any removals and the discipline consequences. We've established protocols already to track the students' discipline removals, and we do review the PEMS, OSS, ISS reports weekly to ensure that we don't meet that 10-day removal. And then we're also implementing the PBIS, the Positive Behavior Supports training, which we do provide monthly. We do CPI training just so that teachers and staff know how to de-escalate situations to kind of prevent situations to escalate in the academic setting. Do we have any questions?
Board members? I'll turn it over to board members. Questions? I always have questions, I'm sorry. There's a lot of work that has been done with the self-contained classrooms in regard to everything from furniture to discipline and so forth. But when I see the numbers like at 8th grade, it kind of troubles me, because a lot of times that means that those students are going to be out of the classroom, and so they're going to miss out on instruction. has there been any training that addresses, again, situations with our person that we have for the self-contained classrooms that will kind of carry over to some of the other classrooms?
Yes, we're looking at implementing and moving into different units. And then also, anytime a student at middle school is removed into, say, ISS, we do send a certified special ed teacher in there to provide the accommodations, and the modifications are given to the ISS teacher.
Is there anything in staff development that addresses specific areas such as special ed?
Yes, and we're currently working with Dr. Garza. We met last week for our strategic planning, and we did put in some ideas for training, special ed teachers, general ed teachers, and providing support that can provide, to help our special population students to ensure that their accommodations and their services are met.
Well, I know, Dr. Rios, when 7th and 8th grade are critical years with the hormones and everything else. So on top of that, there's a lot of, I want to say, the increased numbers of enrollment because of the size of the school. And so in every area, whether it's a hallway or whether it's a classroom, sometimes it's so different from elementary, but to make it more difficult, it's critical year, 7th and 8th grade. Is there anything in the works to reduce the enrollment at that giant school, besides what academies or STEM areas that we're looking at?
Mr. Russo, two things. In regard to the special education and the bilingual staff development, the first thing that we have to do in planning for next year is that we must revisit the sheltered instruction process so that we can focus on providing staff development to that group of teachers. Unfortunately, because of the turnover, particularly at the middle school, it's hard, so you almost have to retrain individuals. We don't want to have shelter teams in special education because you can't isolate students that identify with that. But we do have to have just a whole lot of training. Unfortunately, we will not be able to reduce the enrollment at Del Rio Middle School this year. That's going to be postponed one more year to turn San Felipe Memorial into a full-fledged 6th through 8th grade campus. That just has to do with the number of students that have looked at doing the New Tech Middle School. I will get together and visit with the middle school principals and cabinet, see if we can come up with a different solution, because it is a large number, and as long as those numbers, all of us that have been principals there recognize that. Now, I will say that this year we did return to having 2 principals there, the 7th grade and 8th grade, and keep those isolated. That did provide fruitful. The first year we did that, and the second, because of limited administrators, we didn't follow that practice, but we're back to doing that, and that should provide some improvement. But still, we'll get together and visit, see if we can do more.
It kind of adds to, it's a special population where the smaller the size, the better. In 7th and 8th grade, where everything else happens, it just makes it very difficult for downsizing, I know, because of the enrollment. Mrs. Webb, you had a question?
I don't have a question. I have a comment based on what you just said right now. When we add the numbers between 7th and 8th grade, it's 93. But when we add the numbers for secondary, which is 9th through 12th, we have 141 students. And here again, it's a campus, and you have 9th graders that go into the high school, and they're still special ed. So they're still counted as a whole group. So if we're looking at separating 7th and 8th, are we going to be looking at separating secondary special ed students as well? You know, I mean, that's just something I'm throwing out there because I do know that a lot of our ninth graders end up at the high school for different subjects. And they get in trouble at the high school, not at the freshman campus. And along the same lines, you have those that are at early college that also, some are special ed and they all end up at the high school. So either way, we have a situation that needs to be addressed, like Dr. Rios said, whether it's training our teachers on how to work with these students that have the special needs. You know, there's something that needs to be done because we have them everywhere and they're not going away.
Right.
We're gonna be getting more students and they all learn at a different level and different ways.
I think the only difference is, you know, once they pass freshman, for example, they tend to settle down.
No, they don't, sir. No,
Special
they don't,
ed.
believe me, they don't.
Well,
But anyway,
because we've been principals at the middle school, in one campus, you have 93 students together that were removed. Compared to 60 at the freshman, that is a whole third more.
Yeah.
So it's an issue everywhere, but doing something about the middle school, not that there aren't issues other places, but doing something at the middle school, if we had to prioritize it, that has to be at the top, just because of the concentration of it. I'm looking forward to seeing the results this year. There is an issue, as Ms. Luna mentioned, with the vape incidents and having to remove them to SGLC because of the new state law. There is no room at SGLC. So this past Friday, when I met with the principals, I shared with them that the placement at SGLC for a student with vape, when it was nicotine, we have to reduce it drastically, because if we leave it at 30 days, they're never gonna get back to campus. And there's gonna be a whole line of another 30 students waiting to go there. So we're reducing that. And for kids that are caught when there is no room, we're gonna service them in IS as the law allows that. But I do worry about how those numbers are gonna reflect for this coming a year, because I don't think that special education students are the only ones vaping, but I also don't think that they're not vaping, so that number's definitely gonna increase. But we'll keep track of it, and we'll look.
I place focus on that because, you know, when we look at everything that's going on around our state, like vouchers and charter schools, they're selective on the students that they allow in. You know, and when there's issues such as discipline or other services needed, physical therapy, you know, that's when they deny these students. And sometimes, you know, as you've been an educator, you know that a smaller environment would help out these students a whole lot. But, you know, that's how charters and other private schools operate, that they don't provide services for these students. And so I'm looking at how we can improve the program in regard to the size. And when you go through 7th and 8th grade, it's a totally different aspect with regard to the hormones and everything else, the boy and girl issue. But anyway, I just want to focus on doing what is best for all students and all categories of students. If there's
Thank
any
you.
other questions? Thank you very much.
Oh, but
Question? Becky?
No, it's just a statement. You know, listening to each one of you talk, I'm just thinking out loud. There's always been, you know, where our special ed, bilingual, you know, where we always have to look at new things, new interventions, and just work with them, because the situation and the way our school system, you know, I think everything is done to help the students. However, you know, whatever interventions that we have for them, we just need to be through conferences or through, you know, teacher training, presenters, we just have to look at what other ways, and I think we're all doing that, you know, and we just have to keep on and see, you know, as to how well or how much these trainings bring forth to our students so that we can continue to progress and to bring them up, you know, to a level where they should be. And so it's always been a concern where there's a lot of perhaps special ed, even in the elementary, concentrated in one school or one classroom, and sometimes it just has to be that way. But as they progress to the later years, up to 6th, 7th, and 8th, then it just becomes a much higher concern. So all I'm saying is we just have to move on and keep on and see what we can do our best.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next item we have is a consent agenda. Again, there's minutes of some previous meetings and training that we had. And then, again, there's purchases that are over $5,000. And so if there's any other item that needs to be pulled out or questions that you might have on any item, now's the time to do that. In the meantime, the donations will be posted on the website, again, for those individuals that assisted in one fashion or another, again, by donating to our district in different areas. So again, we're appreciative of businesses and individuals that make donations. They will be posted on our website. Mr. Galindo, did you have a question?
It's not necessarily to pull, just a question for Dr. Rios real quick. In reference to the Texas STEM Scopes, when would that be initiated? I know at the end of the school year, but June, July, when would that come in and start being extended out to the teachers to begin review and so forth to get ready for this curriculum for the next school year? How soon do they get it?
Where's Dr. Garza? She's rolling out a plan. I'll ask her for a couple more details, but our plan is to get them before the end of the 6 weeks, the final 6 weeks, so they can start working on the curriculum documents, make those accessible to the teachers. And there's already a planned training for the people that are going to lead the training. When do our administrators who are going to lead the plan get the training, ma'am?
In April, we have that timeline set out where STEM Scopes is offering us a train the trainer model. And so we've worked with the campus administrators to see which admin would be best to send to that so that they could come back and in turn train the others.
But that doesn't cut into the 1 year online access, right? That'll start from, I'm guessing, day one of school. That's when the 1 year access begins?
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any questions on any item on the consent agenda? If none, then I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Sorry, Mr. Mesa.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I was
In-
looking at it wrong. I do have a question
Okay.
on the second reading.
Okay, Amy Haynes says question on policy review.
Yes, sir, that's the one right there. Just a quick question, I'm sorry, Sandra, I apologize. I read through, and Sandra got to brief me just a little bit about the different situations with the distribution of the respiratory medicine. So I'm clear, but I just wanted to ask if we were going to put out send out a parent letter to the parents to further explain the situation as well.
Okay. So there's a couple of things that we're going to be addressing. The first one is obviously the training for all the nurses to prepare for what could possibly happen. And then there is going to be different modes of communication. To first, a general one so that all the parents are aware of it. And then work with the nurse to identify individual students and then have specific communications with their parents so that they know. But we're gonna do that, a general communication here at the end of the year, and then in preparation for the beginning of the year, have it more detailed by student.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. If there's no one else with a question, then I'll entertain a motion for approval. Motion made by Mr. Galindo, seconded by Amy Haynes. All those in favor? Unanimous vote to, again, approve the consent agenda. Next item we have is item 10, administration. First item we have is consideration for the board president to appoint the 2024 San Felipe Duro CISD curriculum planning. Ida Gomez or Dr.
I'll
Rios?
speak to it, and then I'll ask Ms. Gomez to read the recommendation. But Mr. Mesa, in preparation for the further development of the academies, the Bilingual Academy and the STEM Academy, and even the NETEC High, NETEC Middle School, we want to have a way to vet out a curriculum, mainly because it would call for a large investment from the Board of Trustees. So we would like for there to be a 3-member board committee who would help us vet through the presentations on what technologies we could implement, and see how that committee, what recommendations the committee has for that specific technology, that specific curriculum, and then bring to the board for a general vote. And that would include perhaps visiting some campuses that are already doing it. But again, some of the programs that we've seen are tremendous. They're incredible. But they're also $500,000 per campus. So we would just feel a lot better if we took more of a committee approach to this before we even thought about bringing a recommendation to the board. So if y'all could discuss which 3 of you would like to be on it, or do we have to revisit it and come back with more information?
What is the timeline?
We would like to consider all of this before July, at least the first round that we're looking at doing for the STEM academies.
Okay. Well, we have some volunteers, so if we can have Amy, Mrs. Webb, and Mrs. Gonzalez be in the committee,
Absolutely.
would you all be available to?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Read the recommendation.
Okay.
Can we do the recommendation?
Yes.
Thank you, President Mesa. It is a recommendation from the administration that the board president approve the appointment of 3 board members for the 2024 Curriculum Planning Committee membership as presented. Mrs. Haynes, Mrs. Guanajuato Webb, and Mrs. Gonzalez.
You've heard the recommendation from administration. Is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Mr. Galindo. Is there a second to the motion? Motion made by Mr. Orfeld. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item is item 11, curriculum instruction. Item A, consideration to approve new career and technical CTE courses offered at Del Rio Middle School for the 2024-2025 school year. Mr. Gonzalez, Roger Gonzalez.
Good evening, Mr. Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. CT administration requests that the Gateway to Technology, GTT 1 through 4, courses be replaced with new engineering courses since TEA no longer awards credit for GTT. The following engineering courses will provide a strong foundation for students to continue in the STEM pathway. The first one for 7th grade, Principles of Applied Engineering. It is a 7th grade level, 1 high school credit. The second one for 8th grade level, Engineering Essentials, again offering a high school credit. The Principles of Applied Engineering course consists of 2 Project Lead the Way PLTW units, design and modeling and automation of robotics, while the Engineering Essentials course includes curriculum from 4 PLTW units, inclined to design, make it and move, power it up, and make it plan.
Questions from board members? There being none, recommendation.
It is a recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve the new courses available to Del Rio Middle School students as presented.
For the recommendation from administration, is there a motion? Motion made by Amy Haynes, seconded by Mrs. Webb. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mesa,
Yes,
a couple members are asking for a 5-minute break.
okay. Okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute break. So it's 7:36, we'll come back at 7:41. Right. Taking a 5-minute break. Okay, we're back into session now. Next item we have is item 11B, consideration to approve TEACS certification survey for 2024-2025 school year. Dr. Garza.
Hello, everyone. President Mesa, members of the board, Dr. Rios. In accordance with the Texas Education Code 31.1011, districts are required to certify annually to the State Board of Education and the Commissioner that students have access to instructional materials covering all TEACS for all required subjects except physical education. The 24-25 certification survey is in your board book. It will be submitted electronically to include the school board president and school board secretary's signature as confirmation of compliance, meeting the certifications outlined above. So the survey that's in your book has been filled out by administration, listing all the different resources being used to address the TEACS.
Okay, question from board members? I was reading through all the,
That's okay.
so it protects students from all obscene and
Oh,
harmful
yes.
content.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone with a question? We don't have any questions, so recommendation?
It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees ratifies the 2024-25 TEACS certification survey as presented.
For the recommendation from administration, is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Ms. Gonzalez, second to the motion, Mr. Galindo. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
I will need a signature. I don't know how y'all do that. Do I give it now?
Yes, I have, yes.
Okay.
Item 11C, consideration to approve a new economics course, personal financial literacy and economics, offered at Del Rio High School, Early College High School, and Blended Academy for the 2024-25 school year. Dr. Sandy Garza.
In response to Senate Bill 1605, schools are now required to offer a half-credit course, Personal Financial Literacy and Economics. In the past, students were to complete a course in economics with emphasis on the free enterprise system and its benefits. Now they have the option to take this course or the new Personal Financial Literacy and Economics course to satisfy their half-credit economics requirement for high school graduation. The course name is Personal Financial Literacy and Economics, and a reminder, it is a half credit.
Questions from board members? comment, Mr. Overfeld?
Thank you for going in and putting this together and bringing it. It goes in and adds more that our students are able to go in and achieve while in high school towards a college career if they decide to do that. So I'm glad we're jumping on it right away. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Overfeld. Anyone else? There being no other questions, recommendation, please.
It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the new course available to high school students as presented.
The first recommendation, I'll entertain a motion for approval. Motion made by Becky Chavez. Is there a second to the motion? Mr. Overfeld, all those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. I think we have another one. Oh, no, you're done. Okay, item 13, Business and Finance, consideration to approve the resolution regarding review of the investment policy CDA local to include independent sources of instruction for the training of investment officers and resolution adopting investment policy and strategy and authorized broker/dealer list. Amy Childress.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. The Board of Trustees is required annually to review the district's investment strategy, which does include the investment officer training sources, the CDA policy, local policy, as well as the list of approved brokers. And we first brought this to the board at the February 19th, 2024 regular board meeting, and included in your packet is a resolution to sign for the approval of we did review it, and you are agreeing to the changes the one change that was made by our investment advisors.
Any questions? This is an annual thing that we do every 2 years?
Every year.
Every year.
Yes, sir.
Hearing no questions, recommendation, please.
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the resolution regarding review of the investment policy, CDA local and broker-dealer list.
Heard the recommendation, I'll entertain a motion for approval. Motion made by Amy Haynes, seconded by Mr. Galindo. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item we have is item 14, Human Resources, consideration to approve the conversion of attendance secretary to principal secretary at Student Guidance and Learning Center. Sandra Hernandez.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and distinguished board members. This evening, the administration requests a conversion the position of the attendance secretary to principal secretary at the Student Guidance and Learning Center.
Any questions? Hearing none. Recommendation?
Yes, sir. It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the conversion of the attendance secretary to principal secretary at the Student Guidance and Learning Center as presented.
Heard the recommendation. Is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Becky Chavez, seconded by Mrs. Webb. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Item B, consideration to approve a new position for a special education aide for Dr. Fermin Calderon Elementary. Sandra Hernandez.
Yes, sir. The administration requests the approval of a new position for special education aide due to an increased number of special education students, the count of students. This position will be funded through available funds of the unfilled vacancies.
Any questions from board members? Hearing none. Recommendation?
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve a new special education aide position for Dr. Fermin Calderon Elementary as presented.
Heard the recommendation. Motion for approval from Mrs. Webb, seconded by Mr. Orfeld. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. You did?
Thank you.
Right, Becky? See, she did. Okay. Motion unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item C, consideration to approve a new position for special education aide for Garfield Elementary. Sandra Hernandez.
Yes, sir. Similar to the previous request, the administration requests the approval of a new position for special education aid due to the increased enrollment of special education students, and this is at Garfield Elementary.
Any question from board members?
I do. I have a
Question, Becky.
Yes, I know that there's a larger concentration of special ed in the Garfield School. How many aides do we have there?
We can, I'm gonna ask Ms.
No, I'm
Lynn.
sorry, Ms. Webb, I'm sorry.
Chavez.
Ms. Chavez. She was distracting me over here. Ms. Chavez, we have that broken down by the different codes. I can email it as early as tomorrow so that y'all can get the exact number.
Okay, I was
And
just
then we'll maybe provide a more update, okay?
Okay,
But Garfield does have the largest
Yes.
number.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Becky.
It
Okay.
is, I'm sorry.
The recommendation, please.
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve a new special education aid position for Garfield Elementary as presented.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for approval. Motion made by Mr. Galindo, seconded by Amy Haynes. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Item D, discussion possible action to approve employee job descriptions and evaluation forms for the following: Principal, Chief Human Resources Officer, Chief Administrative Officer, Chief Financial Officer, Chief Academic Officer, Chief Innovation Officer. Sandra Hernandez.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board, what we're presenting to you this evening are revisions to the job descriptions for the cabinet level positions and as well as principal positions.
Questions from board members? Any questions? Okay. Hearing none, recommendation.
Yes, sir. It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the employee job descriptions as discussed, as presented. We're only bringing, the job descriptions and not the evaluations at this point.
Okay, so we need to scratch evaluation forms. You've heard the recommendation. I'll ask for a motion. Motion made by Ms. Orfeld, seconded by Becky Chavez. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Next item we have is item E, consideration to approve the updated 2023-2024 district compensation plans. Sandra Hernandez.
Yes, sir. At this point, I'm going to invite Ms. Monica Villarreal to join me in this presentation.
Welcome.
Good evening, Board President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. We will be presenting to you tonight some changes to the compensation plan. We are requesting a change to the administrative professional pay plan. This was an addition that was updated today, and a copy of it was placed at your seat. You'll see that it's a two-page attachment. At the top, it does read Administrative Professional Pay Plan. On page 2, the only change that we will be making to any of the titles will be the third one in line for the Chief Compliance and Accountability Officer. That will be changing to the Chief Innovation Officer. Any questions on the administrative pay plan?
Any questions, board members? Did you all find it?
Okay.
Yes.
The
No
next.
questions.
Okay, thank you, sir. The next one up is the paraprofessional pay plan. This one the change that will be made will be under pay grade 4. Under the fourth from the bottom reads Secretary Principal Elementary / San Felipe Memorial Middle School. We will be adding SGLC.
Any questions, board members? Hearing none.
No? Okay. Oops, sorry. And the last one will be for our supplemental stipends. In compliance with our principal residency grant, we are needing to add the principal residency grant mentor stipend. Per our grant, we are required to pay a stipend of $1,500 to be paid to each administrator serving as a mentor.
Any questions? No questions.
Okay, sir. May I read the
You
recommendation?
want to read the recommendation?
Okay. It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve and the updated 2023-2024 district compensation plans as presented.
You've heard the recommendation from administration. Is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Mrs. Webb, seconded by Amy Haynes. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item we have is item F, consideration to approve the 2024-2025 school year calendar. Sandra Hernandez. Sorry.
Yes, sir. We are presenting, at this point, the administration is recommending the approval for the 2024-2025 school year calendar as presented.
Any questions from board members?
I don't have it in front of me, but it's the one that we all agreed on last month, right? With the- okay.
Yes,
Yes, Sandra, the question is the one that we looked at last month.
that is correct, sir.
Okay. Then, no other questions or recommendation? You already read it?
I'll read the recommendation. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the 2024-2025 school year calendar as presented.
Heard the recommendation, I'll entertain a motion for approval. Motion made by Becky Chavez, seconded by Amy Haynes. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, the time is 7:59 p.m. We're going to go into closed session pursuant to policy 551.074 and 551.071. Again, we're now in closed session at 7:59 p.m. Okay, the time is 9:26 p.m. We are going to reconvene into open session. No action was taken in executive. We're down to item 18A on the agenda, consideration to approve the personnel report to include the following: new hires, district vacancies, retirements, resignations, consideration to approve salary adjustments. Sandra Hernandez.
Good evening, Dr. Rios and members of the board. It is the recommendation of the administration of the Board of Trustees approve the resignations, vacancies, and new personnel as discussed in closed session.
All right, the administration has made a recommendation. I'll entertain a motion for approval. Motion made by Amy Haynes, seconded by Mr. Overfelt. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Item C, consideration to approve teacher contracts. Sandra Hernandez.
I'm sorry, sir, item B.
Item B, I'm sorry. Salary adjustments. Consideration to approve salary adjustments.
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the salary adjustments as discussed in closed session.
Any discussion? Not. Mr. O'Lean just made a motion. Is there a second? Mr. Overfelt, seconded. Mr. O'Lean just made the motion, seconded by Mr. Overfelt. All those in favor? Motion carries. C, consideration to approve teacher contracts.
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the teacher contracts as discussed in closed session.
You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion? Motion made by Amy Haynes, seconded by Mrs. Webb. All those in favor? Motion carries. We will be tabling item D. So that will be tabled. There being no other items on the agenda, is there a motion for adjournment? Motion made by Mr. Galindo, seconded by Amy Haynes. All those in favor? Thank you very much. We are adjourned. Motion carried.